Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon of JAYONBOXING here with predictions for the Dalton Smith versus Jose Zepeda card. And as always, these are just my takes, of course. Your predictions can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear them all. But before we get started, of course, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. It greatly helps out the channel, and I definitely do appreciate it. A little bit of show info here. This will be headlined, as mentioned, by Smith versus Zepeda. This will be taking place at the Sheffield Arena in, you guessed it, Sheffield, England, airing live on DAZN in the junior welterweight division with no title on the line. In the featured fights, of course, we'll have Sandy Ryan defending her WBO welterweight title against Terri Harper in, of course, the welterweight division, and we'll also see action between CAMPBELL, HATTON, and James FLINT in junior welterweight action with no title on the line there as well. So to me, this is kind of one of those under-the-radar cards. It's not necessarily a huge show. It doesn't have necessarily immediate huge implications per se, other than maybe the women's title match, of course, but it's still a very interesting card for a couple reasons. For starters, the odds are very close. When you can get a decent card that's going to be on a good network that you can actually watch, and you're going to be able to look at some 50-50s or pretty close to it in these fights, it makes for a lot more entertaining viewing pleasure, in my opinion. In the main event, again, as mentioned, you have Smith, who is a 3-1 favorite, but he is taking on the toughest test of his career to this point. And so that becomes a lot more interesting because you do know that's kind of in that range where if he's not quite ready or he's not quite who we think he's going to be, Zepeda can expose that in him. And it makes it a lot more of a fun encounter. Again, Smith is right on that world title sort of threshold or world title level. This is the kind of fight he needs to be able to impress in to kind of continue that upward trajectory. Of course, the title fight between Ryan and Harper is pretty interesting as well. And Ryan's a 2-1 favorite here. Again, so she's a sizable favorite, but certainly not something insurmountable. And Harper herself is a former titleist and has been at the highest level, really has only lost to the very best in the sport. So again, if Ryan is who she's supposed to be, she needs to be able to take care of the Harpers of the world. Why I'm also going to be throwing in the Hatton versus Flint fight is because, quite frankly, it's the closest fight on the card of significance. So certainly one I think we should look at as well. Without much more ado, let's get into these fights and break them down. And starting off with the main event here, and we'll go with Smith here to start. In Smith's book, his best shot is that right hand, which he's an orthodox fighter, and what's more, he's facing a southpaw. That seems pretty natural. But it's especially an important shot for Dalton because of the way he throws the punch. It's not only a fast shot, it's a shot he can throw well as a lead, and a shot he can counter with on top of that. The fight could be a battle of counters, especially early on, as both like to sit back and land. However, Dalton's shot might be a bit faster than the more aged Zepeda, so he can step outside of that lead foot and get the shot there quicker down the middle after a pullback or drawing him out with a feint. When you have Zepeda chasing the fight a bit more, especially later in the contest or looking to get a shot back, it makes sense to then sit back and counter with it a lot more, letting him kind of step in to create that impact of the punch. One thing to be mindful, though, of if you're Dalton is of rushing in. Zepeda, as a counterpuncher himself, will look to time those lunges and will look to make you pay. And Smith does have a tendency of kind of getting a bit too sure of his work at times and not setting it up all the time and trying to close that distance. It's not going to work in this particular case. So you need to make sure that you're closing the distance successfully by using some head movements, some feints, some jabs, and then getting into that correct range, as well as stepping to the outside of that lead foot to line it up so it's more advantageous for you. Your defense can be a bit leaky at times, especially how you hold that guard. So you don't want to make it easier by rushing in on a straight line on top of that and then getting hit with that left hand from the southpaw. So just add those wrinkles to your game. Get pushing him back and then start putting those solid punches and combinations together that you're capable of as you build into the fight. Now, switching over to Zepeda, with Zepeda at his core, he's a counterpuncher. Now, if needed, he might need to in this fight, by the way. Zepeda can scrap and go to war. That said, in general, Zepeda wants to sit back and try to counter you. And with Smith, due to his lunging at times, Zepeda will have opportunities to counter with some big shots. Dalton can be guilty of getting too overzealous and jumping in with some, at times, leaky defense, as mentioned. That's a great time to land that counter left hand. And the left hand on the inside can be sneaky and doesn't have to have too much room. So doubling the impact will only strengthen the shot. The only issue is your hands can be a bit low, so you might want to keep them a bit higher in a guard form, as Smith has more speed on his side and you just don't want to tempt yourself too much that way. And while you have very good recovery skills, you shouldn't be relying on this in this fight. That means defense will have to be on your mind in this one. You aren't the youngest or the fastest or freshest anymore, but you can be the smartest in there and rely on angles and timing along with that experience. And these will go hand in hand if you're looking to catch Dalton coming in. You aren't super fast-footed, and trying to get into a war isn't going to benefit you. So you have to make sure you're leaning into your benefits and what give you the best chances of winning. So take those steps back with your hands up, counter with that left, and make sure you're using those angles. Straight lines back don't benefit you either. Stay composed, measured, and you can catch him coming in and then make him pay late. Now this one is interesting because you don't know what Smith is just yet or what Zepeda has left, if anything at all. So great crossroads battle. That said, I think Smith takes this one in those later frames. Dalton needs to settle into the fight, maybe even be caught a few times trying to close ground too rapidly. I think he composes himself, however, and starts countering well with those right hands. As the rounds wear on, I think he catches Zepeda more and more and starts backing him up, landing with combinations that he kind of creates and ultimately creates that cushion for him in this fight to earn a solid victory. Winner, Dalton Smith via unanimous decision. And now going into the co-featured bout here, we'll start with the champion, Ryan. Ryan isn't a massive puncher, and that isn't part of her game plan anyway. She's going to move and look to land those quick shots that score well, keep Harper at bay, and frustrate her opponent. And to me, that's all starts off with a good, quick, stiff jab. And that's the sort of jab Ryan can implement. Ryan doesn't waste motion with the shot, and that means she can get it there and avoid the exchanges or by getting caught in return when throwing that jab. She can throw it from great angles, kind of quickly, as a single shot, as a double shot, even triple at times, and I think the more fluid she gets with it, the better it will be when she's throwing it and setting up other work. She also can throw it to the body and switch it up just to kind of lower the guard and kind of keep Harper guessing. Changing the speed on it as well will keep Harper from being able to get a read on it. And once you get the jab going, it opens up a lot of the other options, as I was leading to there, for your work that you can use to win this fight. Again, you aren't a huge puncher, but you have tremendous shot selection and throw clean, compact punches that are eye-catching and hit hard enough and clean enough to keep your foe honest. The jab sets that up well and pushes Harper back in the process. And this allows you to be the one setting the pace and the tempo. You're fighting at the distance you choose, and you're keeping Harper at bay. When you're on the inside, it's because you're using angles to land these shots inside and up close. And even throw to the body there with that left, which you do pretty well as well in this fight when you're close. Once you score, you reset and dictate the terms once again from the outside. And switching over to the challenger here, with Harper, in women's boxing, the power seems to be a bit different. You don't get women knocking out 7 or 8 out of 10 opponents most of the time. So when someone like Harper has a 50% KO ratio or so, that's a fighter that can bang a little bit. That said, Harper can't just rely on power alone. It needs to be set up properly. Harper is slower handed, has perhaps loopier shots. Still, if you're doubling up the jab and trying to cut off the ring and close distance, you take away some of those disadvantages. You need to get in close. That's where you'll find success. Use head movement to limit the damage you take while coming in and start putting your shots together there. Ryan isn't a massive puncher, but she is sharp and quick, so you can't just take shots all night. You need to move that head and get the jab going to try and deflect some of that potential damage. One of the shots that might work for you also when you do get in close and close that distance is the left hook. You throw a chippy, quick shot on the inside. It has less travel on it, so it'll get home and close that gap for you. So once inside, after cutting off the ring and pressing her back, that's when you'll want to uncork that blow. You might even catch her during an exchange when she's looking to land a power shot of her own. Exchanges in general, when in close and you can get some real purchase on your shots, makes sense for you as the bigger puncher as well. Doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind, but trading when you're the one likely to have the best chance of hurting your opponent can work in close quarters. And that left hook could be the beginning of a lot of your offensive work in that respect. And in terms of my pick here, Harper might have her moments, but I think the overall class of Sandy Ryan will control the action in this one. I think Ryan uses a stiff jab, quality movement, and angles to stay off the ropes and not get cornered. Harper will have to chase the fight and walk into more shots by Ryan, and as the fight wears on, and Sandy will have more success. Ryan might even stun Harper a time or two as the jab leads to better combination work, but I think Sandy stays smart and boxes very well en route to a comfortable decision. Winner, Sandy Ryan via unanimous decision. And in terms of the quick pick here, we have Campbell Hatton taking on James Flint, as mentioned. And, Hatton just hasn't impressed me as a pro, and he kind of looks too one-dimensional and too hittable. And I think Flint starts well early and avoids the pressure with movement and quick shots that might come later. I think as a more seasoned pro, just looks more like a pro to me. I think it pays off for him this fight. And I think overall, along with that left hook and just overall skills, he could make Hatton pay too often and earn himself a decision. Winner, James Flint via split decision in an upset. And the betting odds are here, as you can see. And to be honest, I haven't been able to find the over-unders, but in terms of the odds themselves for the fighters on the money line, pretty interesting overall. I don't think any line in particular is too bad. With Ryan, again, as mentioned, you're looking at a reasonable number for her of -220. You're getting 2-1 odds in that fight, and I really do think she's a comfortable favorite in that one. So if it was me, that's the kind of bet that I'd be looking for here. When I do find those over-under odds, I'll also lay those down in the comments, and until then, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of this recording is 18-6 with 11 exact. But let me know your thoughts, your bets, your picks, all that good stuff down in the comments. And of course, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, check out all the social media here. And be sure to visit JAYONBOXING.com for schedule, results, betting odds, grades, rankings, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.